On this episode of Crowdfunding Nerds, we're going to talk about Deliverance, the first Kickstarter compared to the second Kickstarter. We hope you find this valuable because this is a first-hand case study that we're able to walk you through as it's happening, which is very uncommon that you'll hear this in a marketing podcast. So we talk about the differences between the Kickstarter platform in 2021 versus the Kickstarter platform today. We talk about advanced analytics, which is a brand new feature. We talk about the Kickstarter pre-launch page, which is a brand new feature. We talk about cross-promotion and new strategies that I've leveraged that have been extremely effective in the mid-campaign to earn, at the moment, $8,000 a day or more during our mid-campaign slump, which has been really incredible. So hope you guys enjoy this. Let's get into it.
Game begin.
Let's go.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his marketing level?
It's over 9,000!
What, 9,000? I must be using Crowdfunding Nerds.
Amazing.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I am your host, Andrew Lowen, and I am joined as always by Sean and not Rick. And on this episode, we wanted to talk about the differences between our last Deliverance campaign and this Deliverance campaign. There are differences in both what I see as economic and other factors. Just simply running a second campaign, running an expansion versus a standalone campaign, which we kind of discussed last week, and then running in this we'll say economic climate. And in addition to that, Kickstarter has advanced significantly since last time, and we'll talk about some of those things too. So how you doing, Sean?
Doing okay. Well, a bit under the weather, but other than that, doing okay.
Yeah. Your wife is nearly 40 weeks pregnant. Am I correct?
Yeah. So I might disappear from the podcast for a while, and people know why.
Yeah. So won't be because you're in the closet. It'll be because you're in the bedroom holding on to a brand new little Sean.
Yeah.
That's what the baby's name's going to be, right? Little Sean?
Little Shawnette, girl. So,
Shawnette.
Shawnette. Yeah.
Shawnina. What's the plan? What's the plan for baby's name?
I think of Tabitha.
Tabitha. That's beautiful. I like it.
Yeah. We don't know any Tabithas, so I was like,
yeah.
You don't want to name your baby after someone you know.
Tabitha Galadriel. I'm okay with that. All right. Well, then she'd be a real girl boss. Galadriel's like the ultimate girl boss, in my opinion. So, let's get into the topic of today. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think we should probably start with the pre-launch page, because I made a pretty significant facelift, and it really helped your campaign. For those who don't know, previously on Kickstarter, your pre-launch page is like the page that you have before you can launch. It just has a notify me on launch, and there was like about maybe 90 characters that you could write some text and a display picture. So you have to kind of like utilize that well.
Yep.
But what they've done now is that you can now add more information underneath that section and almost create like a little landing page. So I don't know, Andrew, maybe we'll talk about the things that you did and what you utilized that section for.
So, okay, now we've got this, for those that are watching on YouTube, you can actually see what I'm talking through. But we've got this promotion tab, which is the normal thing that you'll be able to always see. But then you've got your project URL, you've got your pre-launch page, which is a brand new thing. This is actually something that you can craft before you actually even go live, and you can get it approved. I believe it was even before my project was approved, I could show off this pre-launch page. So this is what it looks like right now. It obviously doesn't function anymore. As soon as your pre-launch page, as soon as your project launches, your pre-launch page ceases. So if for those watching on video, you can see Deliverance launches tomorrow. That's not a thing that anybody gets to see anymore because that's already happened. But this is a new real estate. That's awesome opportunity for showing off what your project is. Now, GameFound has this, which I think is really smart. And Kickstarter, as far as I know, I want to say when I went and launched my or put my started putting together our campaign page, I noticed that this existed, and it wasn't announced or anything. And I think that it was a brand new bit of functionality, like the week that I brought my pre-launch page live. Before, all it was you would have the title, subtitle, and image from like what they call the basics section, which was, for those watching, you've got your title, your subtitle, and then the image right here. Those are the things that it would show, as well as the number of followers, which you can see in your promotion here. But now you have this robust page that you can show off what the thing does. And so for us, what we did was we gave people calls to action for getting email updates, joining us on Discord, joining our Facebook group. Eventually, we didn't have this at first, but we included previews and reviews. We included playthroughs, so people could actually see the actual game itself, multiple. And then we showed, this is, I want to say, one of the first things that we put up was like, why back Deliverance? What is Deliverance? And you've got the several really important elements that make the game what it is, that people really love, that we try to illustrate. So you've got robust character customization, and you battle against, you balance combat against the threat of darkness, as you battle demons, and there's new content, and then it's award winning, and those, and along with more calls to action. So we included all of those things. So I think that we probably could have improved this further, but or maybe thought about it more, but I just wanted to generally give people some taste of what this actually is, rather than, because one of the problems is you can get lots and lots of followers, and we see this with GameFound all the time in particular, where they have tons and tons of followers on their page, like 35,000 followers, because GameFound, it's really, really easy to follow a GameFound project. And sometimes those followers don't convert to backers just because it seems like there's just followers had really no context for what it was, and so pages, on GameFound and Kickstarter, people that do a lot of work to kind of fill out their pre-launch page, I think, do a lot better as they're acquiring followers. Followers can now read something that will give them some context for what it is that they will eventually have to make a decision about backing. And I think the more that you can get somebody to engage and interact and read and generally internalize your stuff, the more likely you are to convert that person into a buyer. One of the thing we're all fighting for is attention. And if people actually read through my entire campaign page, or my pre-launch page, they are going to be much more likely to make a decision of if they're interested or not, right? The one thing you don't want is when someone follows and they're like, oh, I'll check back later, and then they're the person that gets the final 48-hour notification. It's like, well, I hope that they now check back. I've got one shot to get them to check back. GameFound, it's a little bit easier, where you've got updates that you can start to pull people in that were following you, because your followers receive your updates, which I think is a really cool feature about GameFound. But in any case, that pre-launch page is a really big deal, and I absolutely recommend you should definitely take it very seriously. One other thing I mentioned that I did here up at the very top, I talked about the launch date. The launch date is not something that shows on Kickstarter. So if you plan a launch date, make sure that you put that there so that you can get people to kind of start to mark their calendars and whatnot. One of the things I wanted to try to do with my fans before, and I recommend this to everybody, is make sure that they're prepared for your launch day, and that they know that it's such a big deal that they back on the very first day, and that it totally determines the trajectory of your campaign if they back that day versus a week later. And there's still misunderstandings from backers out there, lots of misunderstanding about people that are like, oh, well, I don't get paid till like 2 weeks later. And you can you can let them know that they don't have their credit card's not charged when they back the campaign. It's only charged when the campaign ends. And so that actually makes it so that they can back with confidence. If they've budgeted the money already, but they've yet to be paid into their bank account, it's something that doesn't need to hold them back from backing today. And that's something that you could easily lose out on a backer where they're like, yeah, I want that, but I'm gonna wait. And it's very easy for you to lose the backer, even though there's the best of intentions, right? And we're not talking about backers that have thought about it and decided, right? Decided, oh, I wanted to, but I am a little bit, I've had plenty of backers say our margins I'm margins. I mean, our the money that we have in the bank is a little bit too thin. I really wanted to back this, but I'll back at $1 and hopefully our finances will improve. Or I can't back this time. I really want to, and they cheer you on from the side, even though they just can't afford it. That's common enough. But we're talking about those people that have planned and want to buy and all, but you just want to make sure you kind of capture them at the earliest possible opportunity, right? So I think that the pre-launch page really, really helps with that.
And you had a little countdown as well, didn't you? Launching in 2 days, launching in 1 day, and then launches tomorrow. So you kind of updated that frequently enough. This also changed our strategy in terms of paid advertising, because we traditionally send everything to a landing page by capturing email, but now we have this ability to kind of create a landing page experience on Kickstarter itself, with the ability to have a button that goes to a landing page where they can submit an email. So at one point we did switch things up and we stopped directing people towards the landing page. We just directed people to the Kickstarter, particularly as we came up closer to launch, because we wanted to get that follower number as high as possible. And we were also capturing emails just through people clicking the buttons and then interacting with the page itself. So I think it's going to present some interesting opportunities just in terms of changing up strategy. I think this time of year, it's quite competitive in terms of ad space, because everyone's trying to advertise before Black Friday and before the Christmas season. So it means like CPMs are high. So email costs captures is quite high at the moment. So it was good to be able to sort of switch up the strategy and change the campaign to a traffic campaign. It's cheaper to get people to a page with a traffic campaign than it was through a lead campaign. So that was a good use of ad spend, I think, at the very end there, just switching gears.
Yeah. There are a couple of things I felt in particular, and not necessarily difference in maybe a difference in the economic times as much as it was like difference in just everybody smashing onto Kickstarter to get traffic before, or to get attention before the US's focus switches to the presidential election. I think that creators behave differently than backers. And I'll go ahead and turn off my screen share for a sec. But creators behave differently than backers. And the things that scare creators aren't the same things that scare backers, and vice versa. So, I think that it's very important to be a backer of crowdfunding campaigns if you plan to go there, so that you understand what it feels like as an actual customer, because your customers, the people that follow your campaign and back your campaign, like, you should know how they think. And right now, people are thinking it's just like any given day to them right now. But then in a month, it won't be that way. People will be like, oh, I wonder who's going to win the election, and this means so much for the future and all of that. And their thought space is, their thought capital is kind of taken up with other things. This will happen. What is it? November 5th, Tuesday, November 5th is like election day in the US. And then on the 6th, everyone will be either sad or happy. And then they're back to normal on the 7th, maybe even on the 6th. That's like, I'm sad, I'm happy. And, half the country will feel like, one way or the other. And then we're back to normal. It's like we go back to work on the 6th, and we, open emails on the 6th, and we try to get it out of our mind. And, even though a president was elected, it's like my immediate surroundings and my immediate situation is the same. And so just like the last election and the one before it, you have people that are, very, very invested in the election, that will feel like the sky is falling if their candidate loses. But those same people who will tell you that it's a huge deal are going to go back to work and going to assume the role that they had before in their lives. And so Tuesday the 5th is really going to be a terrible day to launch your project, but the day after is fine, in my opinion. The only thing is that you don't, another customer behavior change is coming, which is Thanksgiving week, and you've got Black Friday and whatnot. I find that customer behavior really starts to change on the day of Thanksgiving. You want to make sure your campaign ends by like the 20th of November. If you're going to be ending that week, you do not want to end on the 21st or 22nd. You don't want to have your final 48-hour notification go out on that, the 21st, 22nd, etc. You want to make sure that if you're ending your campaign, that it's happening either on the 20th or earlier, or on, let's say, like the 27th or later of November. Because I think that customers, in the way that they behave, they start really thinking about buying products now, buying products for themselves. And actually, I know this is a tangent, but I feel like that's the reason that Awaken Realms really dominated the months of November and December with multi-million-dollar campaigns for Nemesis, and I believe they did ISS Vanguard and Tainted Grail. Like, all of these campaigns happen in the months of November or December when people are thinking about buying things for themselves. And those products are perfect examples of things that you would buy for yourself, right? And it's like, I want to buy this epic game for me and my game group, or me and my wife or my friend or whatever. So it's like a present to your future self. So I think any products launching in the months of like late November or December, anytime in December, you have to think about, these are and there are lots of products that are funded in November and December on Kickstarter, but they're products that people buy for themselves, which is not altogether unlike many products that we buy on or back on Kickstarter as it is, right? So anyway, long tangent, but any thoughts on that?
No, I think that's sound advice. Yeah, you certainly want to make sure you're not hitting up those launching around those key dates. So one thing, Andrew, that you did this time launching that you also did last time was a live stream on Facebook. Do you want to talk about the differences of between that this time and last time around? And did you think it was worth doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's always worth, especially if you have a fan base that will be there to watch. The one scare that we always have as creators is like, what if I launch and then I crash and burn? I don't want to be live when I crash and burn and be like, this is terrible, But so you want to be fairly confident that you're going to fund, But I think if you are confident that you're going to fund, definitely do a live stream, and talk about your game, talk about all the work that went into it, and celebrate with your people. I think this is a great opportunity to celebrate with your fans. If you want to be the type of company that leads from among your people, because you are one of your people, I think that's a great way to behave as a company. I think that you should do a live stream on launch day. If you're totally unsure and totally uncertain and not confident that you're going to fund, you don't have to commit to doing a live stream, but I think that's a great idea. And
Well, it was great because it was also like a live FAQ or Q&A where people were like, hey, I'm about to pledge, but I've got a question. They would ask it on the live stream. You could in real time give them the answer, and then they could then make their pledge. So that was great to see people sort of asking about pledges or wanting clarifications on things. And I know you even changed some things to your campaign at one point, I think, because there was an error somewhere.
We did, like, while we were live.
Yeah, while you were live. So
on the live stream, people were saying, so there's in Deliverance, there was an upgrade kit that a lot of people wanted, which was going from the first edition to the second edition of the game. We made a few changes and whatnot, and anybody who backed the first game or purchased the first game and online, they would want the upgrade kit. And it's something that was like a $10 thing that was an add-on that I was talking about that I didn't actually have created in Kickstarter. I was like, shoot, I don't have that made, and I went and I looked and I'm like, okay, not only do I not have it made, but because in as a Kickstarter add-on, but because it's not an item, then I haven't yet included it in the sections that, like we have this everything new pledge, which includes the upgrade kit. And I said that it includes the upgrade kit, but then there's like a little bullet points of items that are included in this pledge level. And the upgrade kit was not listed among them. And actually, because people backed that pledge already, I could not add the upgrade kit to the pledge. So I had to do a lot of frequently asked questions right live, and it helped very much because people that want to back but have work in 30 minutes that they have to start, if they don't get an answer to that question, well, they can't back right now, which means they might not back until the evening or the next day, which means that your growth and momentum is stunted. So having that live and having a Q&A right there was really, really helpful. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I decided to hit the launch button and then leave for 2 hours, it's like, just take the whole day off. Just take the whole day off on your launch day. It was I mean, for me, the whole week, the whole 9 days that we've been live so far or whatever, our edges have just been like so much work.
So, and
Yeah.
another new feature that we can talk about in terms of Kickstarter has been this advanced analytics tab. I don't know if you want to dive into that. So this is a tab that I think is only available to the actual project creator. So collaborators on your team can't actually access this, but it gives you kind of deeper insights when your campaign's live, and then it kind of shuts off. Is that the idea?
That's correct. So for those that are watching, I'll actually show you my advanced analytics. So this is something only the creator of the project can see. This is also only available while the project is live. So this is last updated, I'll refresh it. So it's updated last 26 minutes ago. But you can actually download this report. So I could download this right now and then send it to you, Sean, if you wanted it. But yeah, this is very, very useful. So
what kind of information does it have? Oh, I'm seeing daily pledges here. Seems to be tracking.
Yes. So the advanced dashboard. So we use a lot of tools like tabletop analytics and kick track and whatnot to see how well things are going and whatnot. But Kickstarter has its system, so you can see how many backers came in on particular days. So on the left hand side, they have like weird hours, so it looks like we've had whatever 1,000 backings on the first day, and then 246 the next day, and 121 the third day. But the actual number of backers was around 1,100. So this must end at like 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. my time or something like that. But generally, over time, you get to see like the total course of backers and how much money they're putting in and whatnot. So you can see the actual daily trending increase. So we're at just over 281,000 according to this chart. And we have, the number of backers and whatnot that you can see. You can see the hours that were pledged. So like in the first hour, we had $79,000 pledged from 467 backers. And this is like a really tiny chart, but you can just see, like by the hour, and you can see, okay, that maybe you'll notice some trends and whatnot. So 467 backers in the first hour, 160 in the next hour, 82 in the next hour, 55, 51, 42, 58. So you've got a significant amount of money given in whatever hour 8 or something. So this might be useful. We've got channels and referrers. This is I think something that's pretty important. The backings by channel, half the people backed the project, almost half, 48.29% on desktop computer. On a desktop.
That's interesting.
That's really high. That's a really high number. And I think that although a lot of people will look at a landing page on mobile, they definitely will go to their desktop computer for purchases. I think that's one big thing that they do. If you purchase on Amazon, you may have used the Amazon app. That's really common, but a lot of people like to search when they have a buyer intent. They're definitely intent to purchase on desktop, which is not necessarily reflective of the actual amount of traffic you'll get. You'll get more mobile traffic, but then when people want to buy, they go on their desktop and they're like, okay, now I'm serious. But yeah, we had a lot of people on Android. Actually, there were more people on Android than iOS. We have, mobile Android and Android phone app. And then we have mobile iOS and then the iOS app. And then we have an iPad, some iPad, and then some that Kickstarter has no idea where they came from. You can also see the various tiers. So the amount of backers that pledged, less than $2, between 2 and 5, 5 and 25, 25 and 100, 100 and 500, 500 and 5,000, and more than 5,000. So we actually had 2 backers that pledged more than $5,000 on our campaign, which is crazy. We have 6 backers. Let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 backers that pledged between 500 and 5,000. So, we have, of course, between all our add-ons and everything like that, you can do that. Or we have our what we call our Archangel Investor tier that you can back. So it's a big, pricey pledge. So that's kind of cool. 2 backers. I mean, maybe they're both my mom. I'm not sure. Did she use the desktop and then the iOS? Who knows? But I guess we have 2 people that really believe in what it is that we're doing and wanted it reflected. So okay. Now, all of the specific referrers to the project. This is kind of a big deal, but also something that will be shown very easily in your dashboard. So we have direct, we have my launch day, my Deliverance launch day. They kind of rival one another. This is my email. Kickstarter email marketing from followers, 157 followers. Search. So there's a lot of really cool. Kickstarter got a project we love, which was a big difference from last time. So Kickstarter in search featured, discovery, recommendations, home. So lots of different options here, but again, these are all going to be in the like in your regular referral analytics
and the dashboard.
Yeah. So
is that the end in terms of features in the advanced analytics presented here?
There's daily pledged by custom referral tags. So
okay.
Yeah, so you've got, so for example, we did an email blast with the Babylon Bee, and because the editor-in-chief is a big fan of the Deliverance. So for the first 7 days, I don't know how in the first day, because it didn't go live on the first day. Maybe it did, and Kickstarter's tracking that way. But day 1 to 7, we actually had a significant amount of pledges come in via that email. Let's see, looking at like Deliverance, the classic Kickstarter, we've had a significant amount of backers come through that each day. So our classic Kickstarter and updates. So one of the things that's happening is every once in a while I will write an update in our old campaign. I think it's a mistake not to do that, and you'll see later why. But you can see where the pledges are coming from the various referral tags. Hive. So we use Hive Pledge Manager. And if you're using Hive Pledge Manager, they can send out an email to their list, and look at that. That was almost, I want to say it's around $10,000 that was generated by Hive. We've got our, the launch day. So our email, so the initial email that we sent out right there, we've got the playdeliverance.com homepage, which is sending a lot of people. And then this is the shop pages where people want to buy the product but can't because it's sold out. So this is something that, I get regular numbers of backers that find us via our Deliverance homepage and then go to our website. So this is the landing page. This is our landing page. So we have a website that has generated, maybe $7,000 in sales, and, our shop pages have generated maybe 5,000 in sales. And so if it was our landing page, you would, which I want to say is this one right here, you would actually see, some major, if we just didn't have one, we would have, 15, 20,000 less in funding. I don't know. So now this is actually really interesting. Backers by Kickstarter history. So Kickstarter calls their backers power backers. They divide them into categories. Power backers back multiple times a month. Core backers back every month or two. Casual backers back every few months. Passive backers have pledged before, but not in the last year. And first-time backers are, of course, new to Kickstarter. I figured I'd have fewer first-time backers than our first campaign because this was an expansion. And if you were a first-time backer, because it's not standalone, the price to get in is higher. If you wanted all the gameplay content, it's like $150, or all the cosmetic things as well, it's like $260. So you have the core, let's say, power backers. You actually have more core backers than power. So power backers are like those super backers that back just tons of projects. Core backers are backing every month or two. So we had 35, almost 36% of our Kickstarter crowdfunding has been generated by core backers and 30% via power backers. Then casuals, 256, that's 13, almost 14, 13.5%. Passive backers that back rarely. These might have been my first time backers from several years ago that came back or whatever. But then we've got, 142 first time backers, which is 7.7, about 7.5%.
I'm sure all of these numbers impact Kickstarter's algorithm in terms of pushing your project out. I'm sure if they see a lot of new, like first-time backers, they're going to push it out more because it's bringing lots of people into their ecosystem. Or if it has a lot of power backers backing it, they're probably going to push it out more because this is something that a lot of people are jumping in on.
Yeah, and that's something that I find was very interesting. So, like, look at day one. We have a lot of core backers. So 380 core backers backed on the first day, and 318 power backers backed on the first day. So there were more core backers than power backers. But then you look at day two, there were actually more power backers than core backers. And it's like, why is that? And I think that that's because of where we were ranked on the, on Kickstarter's search. We were ranked very well on Kickstarter search, so we've consistently ranked very well there. So between core and power backers, I think that that's where they might actually come from more so than anything else. That's, I think, a really big deal. So I first time Kickstarter backer refers, like, where did they come from? We had the highest number of people from that Babylon Bee email blast, and then somewhere they just came direct. People that found playdeliverance.com, the shop, people who followed either from the classic Kickstarter or from, so email marketing, first time backers, and a lot of people finding us on YouTube and other places like that. So, yeah, so our email marketing definitely worked, for the start of this Kickstarter. But look at this. This is probably the most interesting: returning backers for repeat creators. So right now we've only had one campaign. It tells us which campaign it was down here. We have 717 backers that came from Deliverance, the game of spiritual warfare. That was our first campaign. And so only 26% of our backers that backed the first game have backed the second one. And I find that to be really interesting because it's an expansion. And so this is like, it used to be, I want to say it was like 16% when we launched, then it went to 19. And then I started to do a little bit more like emailing to our list, as well as our, to like Kickstarter updates to our first backers. And this has gone up, about 10% since we started doing that. We could get maybe 40% by the end. I think that this kind of follows the return rate. It has been very consistent with the converted followers rate. So 26% of our backers have returned. And, we also have, I believe, 26% of our followers have converted, which is really interesting. So we've got returning backer refers. So our number one is our Kickstarter launch, and then the Kickstarter email. Then we've got direct traffic and discovery and so on. So new to me backers. So there are 1,186 people out of the roughly 1,900 that have backed our campaign so far that have never backed before. And it's like, here's where they came from. So again, email. We have a lot of Babylon Bee people, direct Kickstarter email marketing, discovery, search features. So this is actually where Kickstarter really starts to pull. And this is why I used Kickstarter over GameFound. Kickstarter has more organic traffic, and I wanted to tap into that. Fortunately, we got Project We Love, but then also we had a big launch day. So we have a lot of people that discovered us. 70 people. We were featured in search and got 62. We were recommended on the homepage. And let's see, internal, I don't know exactly what that means, but that we were, people discovered us on the homepage. When you hit view more, our project was listed as like a discovery related project, probably recommended to them. Let's see, search navigation, that might actually be people that knew about us then searched. But discovery category newest, lots of people came in. So there were a lot of people that found us via Kickstarter's system. And that's, I think, why we had so many core and power backers. If that makes sense. Got backer locations going on here. A lot of people in Texas, a lot of people in California. England had 57 backers. So lots of, we have New South Wales, Australia, Bavaria. So I don't know. What are you curious about? Is there anything that, we've got a lot of watches. Oh, what are we? Pre-launch watches, post-launch watches. I don't know exactly what that is. So watcher is a backer. I'm not sure what that means.
Must be project follower, you reckon?
Maybe. Yeah. If we have, so it looks like 25% of our watches are backers. I think actually we have more converted followers than we do those that are watching. But it looks like 4,257. I don't know. I pressed a button that I wasn't authenticated to view the page.
Well, I think one of the things that we can really glean from this is what's currently working. And one thing we can just clearly see here, the Babylon Bee newsletter was worthwhile because a lot of these metrics are showing that as being a sort of key referral. So if this could be a handy dashboard for someone to look at, okay, where should I throw my advertising money?
Yep.
And then, yeah, maybe something, it'll help you work that out. Notice how we haven't seen a lot of Facebook stuff. Now, that might be because people are coming direct, or they're, seeing a Facebook ad, doing some research, doing a Google search, and then finding it some other way. But yeah, we haven't seen a lot of sort of direct Facebook stuff here.
Yeah.
Be quite interesting.
Notice, well, actually, Kickstarter, I don't think that so I believe they have like a facebook.com or something. They have just like they have a youtube.com. There are so like m.youtube.com, that like one person. There are so many more people that came in from YouTube. It might not have been the final click that they made when they purchased, but mobile Facebook, like, I mean, it showed we've had hundreds of people that came in via our email marketing and our landing pages and other things like that. And it's just it's one of those things that makes it hard to tell, like when Facebook ads are live, if you just stop running the ads, you'll see your backers drop. But then it's just like associated, but it's highly correlated, but not the cause of all your backers, at least Facebook ads. But you can't say that this is, if you stop, as soon as if we stop running Facebook ads, we would see a dip in backers. That they would just be like fewer direct and fewer, other things like that. Maybe even like, we've got, let's see, here's Deliverance Facebook event and other things too, right? But yeah, I'm my gut says that Kickstarter is not showing the whole picture, and it's always been that way. And it's really hard to tell how your ads are running up to a certain point. You can, like, we do have like a lot of other referral tags that we're using and whatnot, like our launch day in our Facebook group and Facebook Live US and whatnot. But it just feels like we're getting a lot more traction. One of the things as well about Facebook, when your campaign is live, and this is actually one of the big things that one of the reasons we really focus on pre-marketing, is you want to make sure that people, when they first discover your project, that they are they're probably not going to back. They're going to say, I will follow this and look more later. So it's a really big deal. So we're getting anywhere from, like, so today so far we've had 47. So yesterday we had 73 watches. Yesterday was a Tuesday, so it should be lower. But generally we're getting from launch day 100 a day that are following the campaign. I think watchers are following the campaign 100 people a day. And so that's something that they're coming from all over, but beforehand was like really exclusively Facebook ads. So we're getting between, well, let's just say, so we have a few low days that we probably were trying other things, but looking at like September 15th on, you have between 36 to 80 or 34 to 81 people a day that were watching us, or that were new followers. And
that
so
could be when we change up strategy and direct the people directly to the Kickstarter at that point.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, and then the final is daily pledged by watchers. So these are the amount of conversions that we've got by our followers on the various days. So pretty interesting. But it's, what conclusions can we draw from this? It's something that we'll have to think about. But I'd say, for you, if you're on Kickstarter, definitely download the list. You will not have access to it before the end of your campaign. Just make sure to do that. It's like one of the last things you do when your campaign's an hour from being over. Just download the list, and then make sure you update your, like whatever's right above on top of your project that you want people to see. Maybe direct them to your website or direct them to wherever. That's going to be really important. It's just a new thing to do.
So Andrew, this time around, in terms of the marketing of your Kickstarter, you've done a lot more interviews than you did in your first campaign. Do you want to talk a little bit about why that is the case, and then what you do to prepare? And have you seen an advantage or a benefit from doing lots of podcasts and interviews with different people?
Definitely. I think that so one of the focuses that I have as a creator, and also as one who counsels clients to try to do their very best during their Kickstarter when it's live, you want to get interviews published, and no matter if it's a small account or if it's like a really big one, you want to make sure that you have interviews scheduled for your mid campaign. One of the struggles of everybody that runs a Kickstarter is like, how do I generate activity during the mid campaign? And one of those things is just talk to new people. If you can let other people know that you exist, it's going to make it so that some of them may be interested and search you up, and because they like what you had to say. So that's something that I think is always really, really important. Deliverance now versus Deliverance then is maybe more newsworthy. We're I don't know, we're, let's see, looking at today so far. If so today is day 10. So last campaign during day 10, we were funded at 207,000. And right now we're funded at 280,000, or it's higher than that. I should probably refresh this page, but so 283,000. And so it's very a huge gap, a huge difference. We're almost about $75,000 higher funded in 10 days in than we were last time. So it seems that Deliverance is more newsworthy, but it didn't change the number of the amount of hustle that I had. I think is the same. I feel like I have more to do now. Like there's just more. We're knocking down at least 2 to maybe 3 stretch goals every day. We're knocking down, or I'm running a live campaign or a live playthroughs of the game, and just kind of trying to celebrate with fans a little bit more than last time. And that's actually a huge difference between last time and this time, which was last time I was trying to gain fans. And the whole goal with the first campaign was to show people that Deliverance is to be taken seriously. And then this campaign was like, okay, now that we sold 5,000 games, I know that people take us seriously. I wanted to show people how that Deliverance is just beautiful, that it's a beautiful game, that it's innovative and all that, that it's worth, it deserves a spot on your shelf now. And so that was my whole goal. And last time we had we did have some fans, but not true fans of the game. They were more like true fans of me, or true fans of what we were doing, or whatever. Nobody really had a true experience with the finished product, right? Until after it delivered. And so this time, a lot of people have experience with the product. People have their favorite characters and all sorts of things like that. So I can celebrate in a different way. So now I will play the game on Tabletop Simulator and go live on YouTube, or play on Board Game Arena and go live on YouTube, and we'll talk through what we're doing, and I'll answer questions here and there. But people now can actually attach themselves to the gameplay. And I'm like, what should I do? Should I do this or that? And people have opinions, right? And they're like, oh, you should do this because of the next move is going to be great or whatever. So it's definitely something that has also been added, doing live plays of the game. And I think that my intent is just celebrate with our fans. As a fan myself of the product we made, I want to celebrate with them instead of tell them where we're going, right?
I suppose part of these interviews and even the live streams, because you could always have guests on your live streams and play with some influencer or something, is that it kind of taps into cross promotion as well, because you're sort of tapping into other audiences in the podcast, and they're just sort of discovering you. So I know cross promotion has been a real game changer in terms of this campaign. Want to talk a little bit about how you set that up and what was the thinking behind cross promotion?
Yes, in fact, yeah, that's a great point. So I didn't really have a serious cross promotion strategy during our first campaign. It was like, anybody that wants to share my stuff, will you please do it? And it was just like, I was one of those memes where it's like one guy at a urinal on the far side of the men's bathroom, and then the other guy walks past all the urinals, stands next to him, and says, "Hey, have you heard about my Kickstarter?" That's kind of what I was in the first campaign, trying not to be that, but that if anybody wanted to talk about it, I would just talk their ear off way more than they expected. So this time, I'm much more targeted with cross promotion. And I think this is a mistake that a lot of new creators make, especially. They're like, hey, I have a zombie apocalypse game. Do you want to tell your Deliverance fans about it? And yes, I know you'd like me to tell my fans because I have, whatever, several thousand backers and whatnot. But there's just it doesn't make sense. Like, the type of game that I have and the type of game that you have are so different, and our audiences are looking for different things. Like, you're looking for people that are playing competitive, trying to blow each other's heads off and then turning into zombies and whatever. Like, that's not my campaign. I have a cooperative campaign that has a very particular theme, and so there are certain games that have a really good fit. And so that's what I targeted this time. I targeted people with like a Christian themed game. So one example would be like Bedouin Games with Elijah Marar. He did Rise of Babel. He did The Flood. I asked him, hey, would you be interested in sharing our product? I'd be happy to return the favor. So that's the thing. Like, I don't want to just receive. I'm saying, like, if you would like to share us, I would be happy to share you at some point in the future. And I would only do that with people that I would actually share with my fans, right? So I would like to have CMON share Deliverance because, of course, they have hundreds of thousands of backers, but I don't think that there's a really great fit for CMON to do that. And for me to do that in return, it's just like, why are you sharing this? Or have you sold out? Have you sold out to the man? Are you just some faceless corporation now? And so we had, I'm going to say, like 10 to 12 campaigns that we reached out. In fact, one of them was Ezra and Nehemiah, Shem Phillips of Garful Games down in New Zealand. And he was like, yeah, we'd be happy to share. And what's so funny is we both launched a campaign on the same day. So he couldn't share. It wasn't just the same it wasn't just that we both launched on the same day. It was that he launched a campaign in the same line as Ezra and Nehemiah. And so it was like, why would he share about my product when he has to share about his? It was just really funny. And so, yeah, it was an unfortunate thing. Like, if Shem or myself, if either of us were separated by a couple of months, it would have been no problem to share. And I look forward to one day being able to share more. Like, I shared with him that we did share Ezra and Nehemiah. And that's one other thing that you can do. You can be proactive in your updates, sharing projects that you think are worthy, that your audience will like. And then you can come back to those creators and say, hey, would you be interested to share? I just want to let you know, we actually shared you in the past in this update. And if you would like, we'd be happy to share you again. And that's very endearing. That's like, I did something for you without being asked. I just wanted to help you out, and I'd be willing to do that again. Would you be interested in sharing us? It's like, well, it's not just this tit for tat, you share me, I share you, but you already helped me. That's really great. And so that's something that I started doing, and I wasn't thinking about that I could actually leverage that in an email outreach at the time. But that's a really powerful way to endear yourself to someone and just say like, hey, I helped you, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but here's the update and whatnot. I did that with Gate Zero. Remember those our
Mm-hmm.
clients, Gate Zero? They, I shared their project, and then they shared mine, and it was great, because I was able to reference the update that I shared in like June 2022 or something. So that's definitely an area that's received backers. Also, people who are real true friends, like Eric Bitterman and Sky Kingdom Games. They actually were at one point considered publishing Deliverance, but weren't able to because of just the amount of things on their plate, and the Deliverance was going to be really big, and they weren't able to dedicate the time they needed to it and whatnot. And so I reached out to Eric, and he was like, yeah, I'd be happy to share. So he shared when I went live on Discord, and then he shared in like an email update or a Kickstarter update. So that was pretty cool. I think cross promotion done correctly can be very powerful.
Right, yes, about building those relationships and doing those things appropriately. I suppose the thing with Ezra and Nehemiah and that project, if they can't support your live campaign, they could probably support your lay pledge or
Mm-hmm.
when you go to store. So it's something you can use at some point. So it's good to get those things in early and leverage the
Yeah.
favor later on. So one thing I just want to tap into again, just quickly, we did briefly talk about interviews. How do you prepare for interviews? This might be worthwhile just covering this. If people do start getting on podcasts and they're engaging, do you have a script that you follow? Do you just sort of do things ad hoc? What's the thought process? Or how do you prepare for interviews?
Yeah. So one of the things about interviews that I find is really common, and if you watch the same designers, and as we do sometimes with our clients, they'll be on several interviews, several podcasts, maybe some that we recommend them to, and others that they find. They kind of get tired of telling the same story over and over. But I think based on, not just the interviews during this Kickstarter and last one, but everyone in between, I have told the story of Fallbrook a lot of times, like, so what is Deliverance? Can you tell us? And then it's like, I feel like a performer for about 30 seconds. And I have this spiel like I would give at a convention as somebody walks up. It's like kind of the 30-second elevator pitch of what the game is, right? And that is a really important thing. But then sometimes people want you to expand on that and talk about like the basic mechanics of the way the game works. And that is, I would say, 75% of every interview that I've done, I have talked about those two things. And so embrace that. Don't be like, I know I've talked about the same things over and over. I need to give people variety. These people that are listening to you have no idea who you are. So it's their very first encounter with you in all likelihood, and they've never heard this story before. So give them the best version of the story rather than trying to put a spin on it to make it different and whatever. And so I think the more you practice by just the more you tell or you share what it is, the better. And I think that conventions are really good for this. So when somebody walks up to your booth and they're like, what's this? Like, oh, it's a game about angels and demons and saints. Do you want to hear like kind of the 30-second elevator pitch? So that's like my 5-second pitch. And they're like, yeah, sure. So the pitch that I give them is the exact same thing that I'll say in an interview. And people like, oh wow, that's really cool. And then a lot of the time the interviewer will be like, okay, well, I have these questions, and but for the most part, don't try to over explain, and make sure that you are willing to kind of go off script and just talk. I think that in the very beginning, that's the time that you'll have the most people listening, or rather the most people will catch the beginning of an interview, where they'll hopefully hear the pitch for the game, right? And if they do, then it's like, oh, I'm interested in this. I'm going to look this up later. So they don't need to watch or listen to all 45 minutes of your interview. But for the people that listen to all 45 minutes, I think, all whatever you talk about will hopefully endear you to them, right? Just like people listen to this podcast, like a lot of the time they won't get this far because that's just the nature of, this week I didn't get to drive as much, or I had several other things I was doing and just didn't manage to listen to this whole thing. So if you're listening right now, you're, one of the more dedicated fans, right? So, yeah. So I think that being willing to go off script and answer any question, I think you should be willing to just be okay answering anything. So, and don't, like the Babylon Bee, we talked about that a couple of times. That tends to be a politically charged place. I actually went on their podcast in 2021, which was day 2 of our Kickstarter campaign. That was I had to drive 2.5 hours to their office, and it was really cool. There were several thousand, I want to say like 40,000 people that listened at the time, or that I heard on YouTube at least. But then this time I was given the opportunity to go and join their podcast again. And the Babylon Bee since 2021 has become much larger, much larger. They've probably 3 times larger, maybe 4 times larger. And I had the opportunity to go onto their podcast, and I decided not to. The reason that I decided not to is because I didn't want to be like super associated with politics. Like I, my game is already kind of a Christian game, but there are people that, on all sides of the aisle that are interested in the game, that all sides of the political spectrum, all sides of the religious spectrum. And I didn't want to find myself in a position that it was like, okay, my co-hosts are owning one political side and just dunking on some dumb thing that somebody said or whatever, and I'm by association a part of that. I didn't want to, I didn't want people to misunderstand, because we have lots and lots of people that are non-Christians, lots and lots of people that don't share my political ideology, and I care about those people. And I just, it's like Michael Jordan says, somebody asked him one time, why don't you speak up more about politics? And he was talking about his Nike shoes, and they were talking about his Nike shoes. And then they asked him, why don't you speak up more about politics? And he said, well, because Republicans buy sneakers too, and so it's exactly right. Like if you alienate a group of people, and you say, actually politics is a big deal to me, then they'll say, well, fine, we don't want to support you because you're making politics a thing, and we believe opposite of you, then we don't want to support you. And so why make politics a thing, or why make, religion a serious thing that you have to divide over when you're just trying to have a good time and sell stuff? So while I will market, let's say specifically to Christians in our certain email marketing or Facebook ads, I'm not going to, turn people away that are interested and don't believe that way, right? And so I was very considerate about the optics of joining the Babylon Bees podcast this time when it's an election year, and I'm sure that it's going to be some sort of topic that is politically focused or politically charged, and I didn't want to be a part of that this time. If it wasn't an election year, I think it'd probably be fine, so
it makes sense. And I think a lot of marketing has done that now. They sort of associate their brand with a political ideology, and therefore it's not it's not just about purchasing the product and enjoying it. It's now about supporting the movement, and
Right.
and this is really a system perfected by Eric Bernays, who's an advertiser in the 21st century, and he did this with the suffragette movement. He got his clientele were cigarette companies, and he got them. He was able to open up a market towards women because not many women smoked at the time, and he was able to do that by sort of connecting it to the suffragette movement and saying, "Oh, you're not smoking; you're lighting your freedom torches." And he had this big propaganda event that he had them all smoking cigarettes at the same time, and
it's
that
healthy
that
for
was it.
you.
And this, so it wasn't about smoking; it was about supporting the movement, supporting the cause, and that's kind of a lot of marketing has done that today. And unfortunately, it can become quite toxic because now it's like, oh, if you don't support my product, you're a bad person. Why don't you support my product?
Why didn't you buy a Lexus?
You're
you
evil.
awful
Bad
person.
It's a really toxic and evil. I think it's an evil way of promoting products, and you want to be careful of that. Doing that when
I think that
the goal, right, is to entertain people, right, with your game.
Right. Yeah, I think that people rightly so rail against corporations because they have no soul and they'll say what they need to say in order to get more money from you. And so that's why it just is so disingenuous when they support political causes or other things like that, because the only reason they're doing that is because they want to get more money. And they think that by throwing their lot in with this company, or with these politicians or whatever, that they can do that. They, and it gets more nefarious when you talk about political donations and trading favors after their candidate makes it into office and whatnot. But even just like on the surface, I think that a lot of companies, I won't say all of them, some people, or some corporations like Kickstarter, for example, especially the way they used to be, they were a very idealistic company, sometimes to their own hurt. But I have more respect for a company that will just say, this is what we believe and this is how we believe it. Regardless of the money that we make, this is what we stand for. Than, Lexus, which changes its logo, once a year to different colors, or and it's just to make money. It's like if somebody in July changed their logo to the American flag, it's just because they're associating with July 4th and freedom and that kind of thing, and that's just going to make them more money, not necessarily because that's what they believe. And so I'm always wary of companies that just say what is popular to say.
Well, we even
It's like,
see this happening in a lot within the kind of Christian areas. I know there's these old NES games. They're notorious for being terrible, and they're kind of Bible themed games. But they weren't even created by Christians. They were created by atheists. Right. They're just developers who are like, hey, there's a bunch of gullible Christians who will buy anything that has a Bible theme. So let's create these garbage games and just make money. And that's what they did. So there's lots of things like that.
Jesus Ouija board that got really popular this year. It was so funny. It was like the Catholic depiction of Jesus, like this with like the letters and numbers and stuff. Yeah. And it was like, it was called a Holy Spirit board. It's like, holy cow, this is so sacrilegious. It's unbelievable. But they didn't make it as a joke. They made it to sell. It's probably, it just feels it's like, I mean, if people buy it, like, they're such suckers. But that's
that meme, like,
yeah.
should put like a cross on something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you say amen if you agree, and if you don't, then you're a bad person. It's just like, I don't know, type amen if you agree. I just hate stuff like that. So ridiculous. But yeah. So what do you see different? I talk a lot about the campaign. And by the way, again, for anybody listening, we talk about Deliverance because it's just simply a firsthand case study that I am so intimately familiar with. I'm going through it right now, and it's almost like a crime not to talk about it when I'm going through all of the stuff. Super duper important, right? But so, Sean, what, maybe like kind of final closing thoughts. What do you see most different about this time versus last time? I mean, last time you were an interviewer, then I hired you.
Well, I think we've covered quite a lot of it. I think probably the biggest thing has been cross promotion. That's just something that we've leaned into a lot more.
Yeah.
I've certainly noticed the ads have not been as effective, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just because we've tapped into a lot of audiences, and we sort of just have spread our seed very well in those areas? Or is it just the time of year? Or is it our marketing messaging? We've done a lot of experimentation with new audiences, trying to reach new people. Maybe that hasn't been as effective. But that's probably one thing I've noticed, is that the Facebook ads have not been as profitable or successful, from what I can tell, than they were last time.
It does seem particularly for this project. I'm not sure if it's because it's like a religious project and we don't get, or maybe it hurts our placement. It definitely does on Google. That's one thing that has changed, where Google will has it makes it certain ads aren't able to be displayed, or their what is it called, their rank is kind of damaged by the content on the page, because it's religious content or something like that. That's definitely something that Google does. They don't make any bones about it. In fact, like on Board Game Geek, I'd love to target people, and you can target people by micro badges. And but if, let's say, we target all the people with quote unquote Christian micro badges, or games with spouse, or other things like that, we could actually be breaking Google's terms of service. And Google uses, or Board Game Geek uses, Google AdSense to monetize. So we could actually, if Chad is smart about this too, but if we were to target those things, we could actually get Board Game Geek's ads shut down or whatever, and we certainly don't want to do that. That would be horrible for the whole industry, right? But the and again, I think that they are aware of that. So yeah, I also think that the time of year is definitely a big thing. A lot of people, more so than normal in the month of September, October, are trying to get their products launched and finished before the election and before the shopping season. I also think that the economic climate, it is having an impact, definitely is, on people, where they are less likely to be able to afford things that they normally would have, let's say, a year or two ago. People had a lot more money that was disposable a year or two ago than this year, right? And that was, I want to say, in 2023, the top 10 projects raised between $4.5 to $12 million. This year, it's like between $1.5 to $6 million. And for the top 10 projects, discounting Brandon Sanderson's RPG, but we're talking tabletop, board game specific campaigns. And the year's not finished yet, but it's generally much less than before. So given the climate that we're in, it's very possible to fund. In fact, I think Deliverance is on pace to be the highest funded, Christian game on Kickstarter. But then also, we raised $314,375 the first time. We're going to pass that well before we hit our final 48 hours, based on what it's looking like. We'll pass that, in like 3 days or 4 days. So I am overall very happy that we launched. I have no regrets about launching, but I do think that in a better economy, we would make more money. So, but the thing is, for me, like, we're positioning ourselves to do better when the economy gets better. I'm just thinking, after we release, maybe I'm going to print fewer, high-end deluxe edition products, and maybe find a way to print, smaller retail editions that cost less. I think that's going to be really important for the economy, just to sell well during the economy. And I think that people will be much more interested to buy a lower priced product than like a premium edition, percentage wise. There'll still be people that want to buy the premium edition, but then there'll be people that $89 is too much, or 99 is too much, but maybe 59 is perfect for them. So anyway, those are my final thoughts. So I guess we should wrap, right? I mean, it's been a real whirlwind. Thank you for those of you that have supported. Very much appreciate that. But just simply, being able to give back, hopefully it's been useful for you to receive this kind of firsthand case study as it's happening. So we'll wrap here, and then let Robot Richard send us on out.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. For more resources, articles, and to listen to past podcasts, please visit us at crowdfundingnerds.com. And if you have a crowdfunding question, we also have a page on our site where you can send a message directly to us. Please visit crowdfundingnerds.com/question. And if your question is a great question, we may include it in a future podcast. Thank you all again for listening to this week's episode, and we'll see you next week. Stay nerdy.